We are making a new album of progressive folk pop for the 21st century, loosely based on the lives and times of mill owners and workers in the 19th century.
And it is a record that is inspired by stories and fact from mills and mill working in the north of England, mainly in the 1800s, particularly the late 1800s.
We are making what can only be described as neo-prog folk, which may sound a bit strange and cross genre, but it actually does fit the mould of what we're doing quite well.
When we sat down to talk about what this record was going to be, we got chatting about other things, and we talked about the fact that how all three of us don't live where we're from. We all moved away for university, for jobs, for women, for whatever. And we talked about the fact that there's a lot of positives to that, but there's also a lot of negatives to that as well. And so we then got talking about how not every generation has been able to do that. And many, many years ago, when mill workers would build places, they would have to put housing and schools around for the people that worked there. And so you would kind of end up doing your father's job, and he would have done your grandfather's job, and he would have done your great-grandfather's job. So you'd have been kind of stuck in this community. And that's what made us think about running with that idea. We were all quite inspired by that, because it wasn't just about the history, it was about us, it was about our lives.
We all have folk backgrounds in a sense. We've all done folk music in various bands in various forms. And I think this kind of amalgamates those ideas, but into... It's not strictly folk by any means. You know, we have a chord on it, for God's sake, and that's not very folk. But I think folk purists will enjoy it, hopefully.
Also, the narratives of good songwriting, and the fact that narrative is important to good songwriting. But when you look at folk, both traditional and modern folk, often they have like a reinvented, reworked kind of mythological view of the past. So we wanted to do something that was kind of a little bit more rooted in fact and the realities of people's lives.
We're going to try and lyrically take the themes from that story and make them broader. So a lot of the characters in our story feel like they're stuck in these mill towns. And being stuck somewhere is something that everybody understands. You don't necessarily have to be a mill worker in the 1880s. So we've tried to take those kind of broader themes and almost, or certainly I've tried to, imagine myself back in those times to tell those stories.
We're taking various characters from the town, like Civic Pride's about the town founders rather than the characters within the town themselves, whereas other songs are very much first person, I work in the mill, this is my life. So it's taking different perspectives.
Firstly, lyrically, actually turning some of those stories into lyrics, but then we've been also looking at influences from recording some of the sounds of the periods, like water wheels and spinning equipment, and the sounds of mills, and then we're also trying to be inspired by photographs and people's writings as well.
We're looking at the characters, looking at the kind of people that would have populated this kind of environment.
Yeah.
We are thinking about how they would have lived their lives, how they would have worked, basically what their hopes and dreams were, really.
Beautiful.
What their world looked like, yeah, and sounded like and smelled like.
Ivan, what did their world look like?
It was greener.
I suppose it was greener, yeah. It's interesting as well, this period that we're talking about. Yes, you're right, it was greener, but they kind of they weren't very proud of that. It's like they were proud of the bits they were getting rid of the green, and they were building massive brick-built industrial structures. They were the things that were impressive.
Yeah, and in the cities there was slums and squalor and overcrowding and smoke, and pollution, and horrendous deprivation.
And it's like folk in terms of it is about British history at a certain point in time, but musically it's all over the shop, isn't it, really?
No, that's true.
But I think what it does bring from the back catalogue of folk, or the mindset of folk, is the storytelling, and that's what we've always said is really important: storytelling, narrative.
You've got to have characters to kind of give it a sense of life.
And
I think
you can't write songs without that, because otherwise you end up with bim bum a bang.
Yeah.
You know, as your major refrain. Well, you do, don't you?
I think it's fascinating the way that it's a different way of writing. It's a different way of writing for me to have to get my head into somebody else's experiences.
Yes.
You know, and I've kind of played around with that before, and some of the stuff I've produced, but they've all been modern characters. There's been no one who's been dealing with the nature of their lives and dealing with the nature of a completely different environment to one I have any experience in. And there was a point after I'd finished my last record, which was Someone Else's Home, which you guys played on and very beautifully, and you'd finished your last record, which was the March Green's Jobby, where we all went out to pub. And we had quite a lengthy conversation about the nature of maybe the next thing.
Beer fueled.
It was pretty beer fueled. It was quite aggressive, if memory serves. About the fact that
wrestling at the end of it.
there was some Greco-Roman naked wrestling, but that's fair enough.
That happens.
There was a point where essentially we decided that night that okay, let's do a collaborative project, and then the next.
Was it not that we all got really drunk and me and Spence said, "Why do you have to be in charge? Why can't we be in charge?"
Fair point.
Take something that's going to mean something to you or to me or to you, and then give it a specific context that allows you to make a spectacle of it. But then ultimately, everyone's going to go away from it, finding some kind of resonance with it.
I think one thing's definitely true that you just said there is everyone is going to go away from it.
Quickly.
Yeah.